Welcome to another Colors of Prague. So this time I'm covering 4 Italian bands and 1 South American band. And nearly all of these albums by these artists were recorded either right before the beginning of the pandemic or during, and released, say, late 2020, during 2021, which we're still in. I have a huge backlog of progressive rock, and I'm just trying to get through it all and trying to tell you guys about some music that's out there you may not be aware of. And these bands are not the usual. Some may be unfamiliar to you. So I'm going to do quite a few shows like that because I'm listening to a lot, and I think there's some things you should know about. So first off the bat is Alfio Costa. Alfio is a player who's been in past and currently many Italian bands. Fuffaluns, F-U-F-L-U-N-S, Fuffaluns, like lots of fun, I don't know, is one of them, quite a few. So Alfio plays piano, mini Moog, Mellotron, Hammond, the Hammond keyboard, and other devices. This is his first solo album. There are many people assisting him on this album. I was unable to find the names of the other people who contributed, but it's quite possible they were other players that he's worked with in the past. The Fuffaluns 2016 I mentioned, Spavento Passeri, is well regarded by those in the Italian Prague circle and by those into progressive rock music in general. It's very good. So what does this sound like? What does Framantini, released in 2021, sound like? It's symphonic, it's cinematic. There's a touch of Floyd. There's also a touch of Goblin. So for fans, people who like the music put out by Goblin, all the different incarnations of that, you might like Alfio Costa's Framantini. And I did manage to find a recent interview with him that was translated in English, where he said one of the inspirations for this recording was being in lockdown during the pandemic, and one song in particular, Scolopendra, looking out his window, seeing long rows of military trucks carrying stretchers outside of the city of Bergamo in Italy. So you can imagine this has a heavy feel. It's not doom-laden, but it certainly has an aura of despair. These are pretty much all some instrumental tracks, but there's a lot of singing. I'm assuming Alfio is doing the majority of the singing. It's quite good. I liked it. It was different. Simone Titina, who worked with Alfio in Fuffaluns, is, I think, contributing on here. But anyway, so Alfio Costa's Frammenti or Framantini, depending on where you see it listed. It's quite good. It's quite new. And that's RPI, Rock Progressive Italiano. Next I have Alias, The Second Son, released late 2020. It's an Italian band from Naples. Now their influences are very interesting, I found. From listening, classical, folk, jazz, and more. So that band has Romildo Bocchetti on vocals and keyboards, Giovanni Glazzara on guitar, Ezio Filano on bass, Freddie Malfi on percussion. And so, what do I get from listening to The Second Son by Alias? There's definitely a Middle Eastern, South American vibe going on there. The band claims Many other influences include King Crimson, Gentle Giant, Pink Floyd, Tangerine Dream, Terry Wiley. I do myself hear some bossa nova sounds, some definitely a Brazilian flavor. One of the songs has a section in Japanese language. And it sounds to me like the singer, Romilda Bocetti, is also singing that, so she's very fluent in Japanese, I guess, as well. It's sometimes jazzy, has operatic vocals. Kind of reminded me a little of Mary Fowl, formerly of the October Project, who I've been listening to lately. It's very well recorded. The band members were previously in other bands. So they were in the Orchestra Multinacional Mediterraneana and Napoli Centrale. And these band members got together and they became Alias. It's pretty cool, you know, Luis Banfa, Yao Gilberto, Antonio Scalos Jobim, those are other influences here. So is it prog? There are sections here that are very much progressive. Rock, Morna, low-end symphonic sound. Why the bass guitar theme from Batman, the 1960s American TV show, keeps rearing its head? I have no idea. They must have really liked that. So all of you know that I forgot to look up the composer's name, that American television show from the mid-1960s, with Adam West and Burt Ward, Batman and Robin. Yeah, that bass theme keeps popping up. I guess it's a favor of the band, so I enjoyed it. It's very much out there. Maybe not for hardcore progressive rock fans, but for those who have open minds, you might enjoy it. All the tunes are sung in Italian, that one in Japanese I mentioned. There is one in English called Around the Universe. English is perfectly sung. Interesting band. That was Alias, the Second Son. Next off we have Ambigram and their album Ambigram 2021, another Italian band. So far these are all Italian. Francesco Rapiccioli is the vocalist. Beppe Lombardo is guitar player. Mark Martini on bass. Gigi Canelli on percussion. This is a progressive rock band with their bass building on more contemporary bands that are I would say, their influence. Marillion. There's some hard rock in there from, I guess, I didn't check, but maybe these guys' ages are around maybe 30-ish, possibly early 40s, possibly. The singer has a good range. He could do a really high sound. They have some guests on the band beside the band members I just mentioned, including Paolo Lafoli and Annie Barbaza, who also contribute. They're two female singers. They also contribute vocals. And the band is a prog rock band that likes to show their hard rock 80s influences as well. I was reminded of Poison, Cinderella, Warrant, and then you have these keyboard stylings that are entirely progressive rock to symphonic end. So it's an interesting mixture. Great singer. I mean, he's really got power. It's I believe their first album, but I'm just not quite sure where they're going with all this. So that being said, Ambigram, very interesting. I did find I read quite a few comments where people said they really enjoyed them. So, good. I think more focus on what they want to do in the future, whether it's going to be more of a hard rock kind of band or a progressive music band. We'll see. You know, as bands are starting out, and you know. So next we have Bernardo Lanzetti and his very new recent release, Horizontal Rain. Bernardo Lanzetti is interesting here. He's the original singer for Aqua Fragile. So this is the Aqua Fragile album, 1973. Mass Media Stars in 1974, both well regarded. They did reunite in 2017 for A New Chant. That was like a reunion album for them. 1975 to 1979, he was the lead singer for PFN. He's Chocolate Kings, both versions, Jet Lag and Passport. Chocolate Kings 1976, Jet Lag 77, and Passport 78. Interesting, Bernardo sings on the Italian and the English versions. Those were some Chocolate PFN albums that also had US releases or releases in the English language. He's also a member of Mangala Vallis. He joined them tentatively on vocals, adding backing vocals and occasional lead vocal. He was the lead singer for Lycanthrope, their 2005 album. So he has an amazing range, amazing voice, Bernardo Lanzetti. He's also an opera singer. He's also performed in plays, musicals. He was in Three Penny Opera, West Side Story. Giorgio Gasolini, who did who composed Dario Argento's film Bird with the Crystal Plumage, with added music by Goblin. No, that was Morricone. It had to be the second one. Whichever one it was. Gasolini composed a opera called Mr. O, inspired by Othello. And Bernardo Lanzetti had the lead role, sang that. He also released an album in 1999, Lanzetti, Master Poets. And it was a tribute to songs of Dylan, Joni Mitchell, Leonard Cohen, Neil Young, and Bruce Springsteen, who apparently he likes very much, among many others. So the very talented fellow. In 2000-2001, Lanzetti wrote, performed Mr. Burroughs' Mr. Blade Runner. It was a opera musical. I know, it's like a Broadway, well, it's like a show musical / opera inspired by the writings of William Burroughs. Very interesting. So, this album, Horizontal Rain, he brought in some friends. Got Tony Levin, David Cross, who people should know played on King Crimson's Lark's Tongue and Aspic, Starless, and appears on Red. Derek Sherinian, Sons of Apollo and Dream Theater. David Jackson from Van de Graaff Generator. So what is this album like, this one, Horizontal Rain? It's pretty cool. When I first heard this, I actually wasn't taken with it. I was like, well, what is this? It's not the usual RPI. And at 72 years, I was thinking, well, maybe, there's not the same romantic flavor we're used to from Italian progressive rock and the vocals, but no, he's very interesting. So this is like art rock, new wave, very all-encompassing sounds. And I was thinking, so what did it remind me of? And it was like post-Mervillian Fish. You know, all those Fish solo albums. There are times where, and apparently he has electronically treated his voice when it suits him for some songs. He sounded very much like Fish, the former Mervillian singer, and still performer. And everything is sung in Italian, but one song called Ero un numero. That's in Italian. I was very taken with a song called Conventional, which is very Broadway-esque, very much a show tune. It reminded me very much of like Andrew Lloyd Webber. I couldn't tell because credits are really difficult to find for this album, whether it was an Andrew Lloyd Webber song or whether Bernardo Lanzetti actually wrote this, but it shows this amazing range. So after an initial meh reaction, I really quite enjoy this, and I'm going to be interested to check out more of his music because it's I find it very interesting. I like singers who are so out there. I mean, Franco Battiato was another Italian singer who was very much into art rock and had progressive in his sounds and went over to the pop and then all over the place, very experimental. But Bernardo definitely has his hands in other pies. You know, he's just, the guy has an incredible talent. So last, we're going to leave Italy and go to Caracas, Venezuela. Another 2020 release, Cali Santiago. Cali Santiago, Nuevos, Hombres is the name of the album. Band originally called themselves Other Side, and after doing many music festivals, they changed their name to Cali Santiago. Manuel Otomateri is guitars, I did it with an Italian, guitars and vocals. Miguel Garcia, guitars and vocals. Nicolas Bodada, keyboards. Pedro Capone, percussion. Thomas Sanchez, bass. So this band, very good. They reminded me of a bit of Transatlantic, Flying Colors, Dream Theater even. Nice vocals, nice clean guitar, everything sung in Spanish. They also recently were trying to do more recordings, and you might see on YouTube, if you look Cali Santiago, they were involved in the Pandemic Terror Fest 2020, where they did some live and also separated in lockdown performances. I like them, except for one or two songs, when they occasionally do into this, they want to convey anguish, so they're screaming vocals. This is some of the things that turn me off with bands like Pain of Salvation and Riverside, who occasionally, you don't need to do this, because it reminds me of thrash rock, which is like an entirely different thing. So is Cali Santiago a prog band? Well, they definitely have that sound, you know, the keyboards and the songs. I mean, like I said, it really sounded like Transatlantic, and some of the songs reached Transatlantic length. It's about 3 tunes and 7 minutes plus. Very good band. I'd recommend it, and I think they're a band to watch. So that's today's brief show. Thank you for checking in. Stay safe out there. See you all soon.